many of you guys know how to properly project your voice? All right, very good. For those of you who don't know how to, and for future reference, so that you know how to do it in the future, you don't speak from your throat, otherwise you're going to lose your voice. All right? Use your diaphragm, or as I was taught, your diaphragm. Yes. Here's my predecessors told me use your diaphragm, so you use your gut and you push the air out to project your voice. So if you guys want to practice that, your team time and stuff like that, you guys will have the opportunity to do that. Now for the main reason why I'm up here is to remind you guys that you guys have this project, this iMovie project that you guys need to be working on. You guys continue to take some pictures throughout the YLC. I know you guys have gotten some funny pictures of people sleeping and stuff, but don't use those pictures. That is going to be embarrassing for your teammates and for other team members, all right? We want to make this professional and make it look good. I like that there's a little bit of humor in it. There's a little bit of humor going on around, but please don't use those pictures, all right? Other than that, I'd like to say, have fun. Please try and stay awake. And at this time, I'll turn this back over to Cody Holly, your program director.
So we're going to give you some time to kind of consolidate all these pictures, make sure they're getting to whoever it was you'd like to have in charge, if that's your team leader, if that's one of your team members that you'd like to be in charge of all the pictures. Also, I want to address this, I don't know if it was prior, but don't be taking pictures out in Area 51 inside the building. Don't want to accidentally see some dudes running around in their boxers and you got some pictures of that. Just for safety issues, do not take any kinds of pictures out in the sleeping area, all right? Especially not the bathroom either, okay? Y'all got it? I can't. Come on, do you have it? Yeah. There we go. All right, so let's go and split into team time. And did you guys have some productive team time? Yeah. There you go. Let's get motivated. All right, so I'm going to bring up some students to help introduce our next speakers. So if you guys would like to go ahead and come on up here. Give it up for your fellow students, guys. Come on.
So our next speaker is over a foot taller than I am. He's 6'7". He just finished his 4th Tough Mudder, which is a 13-mile obstacle course. He's been in banking for over 30 years, but he also likes writing poetry and an online journal called the Elephant Journal.
Our speaker is here to talk to us about free enterprise in American society and the importance of banking. Please help me welcome Jim Owens.
I guess this is the second time I've had the chance to do this, and I didn't just finish my 4th Tough Mudder. I finished it Sunday. I don't run a Tough Mudder in coat and tie, so I just want you to know we don't do it in this kind of clothing. So what I want to do today is have a conversation with you. I don't want to make a speech. I'd like to talk to you a little bit about free enterprise, about the banking industry and how it plays a part in that. I want you to feel free to interrupt me. I want you to feel free to ask me questions. Oftentimes I will think I'm being perfectly clear. It makes perfect sense what I'm saying, but it may not make sense to you. So please just raise your hand, state your question loudly. If I don't know the answer, it appears to be, well, we'll just not talk about that right now. But I also want to talk to you a little bit about leadership, because I know that's a part of what you guys are interested in and why you're here this weekend. So let me ask you a question. First thing I'd like to do is get to know the audience a little bit. How many of you guys are all in high school, right? So, and you are all, are there any freshmen in high school in the group here? No? Sophomores, raise your hands. Great. Juniors and seniors, you'd actually like to do your senior year in high school over again. Yeah, see, that's what I thought. So let's do this now. From Huntsville, raise your hand. Woo! Right? Well, yeah. So from Madison County as opposed to Huntsville. Great. North, and you're all from North-ish Alabama? Anybody not from North Alabama? Okay, just tell me, sir, where are you from? Holy moly, are you the farthest away person? Anybody further away from Arkansas?
Baton Rouge, someone.
Baton Rouge? Are you from Baton Rouge?
Brandon, Mississippi.
Okay, that's outside of Jackson? Yeah. Baton Rouge, so, and from Baton Rouge. So can I get a roll tide?
Okay.
So there's a lot happening this weekend that's important to those of us that like that. So yeah, so what, I'll tell you, first of all, let me just tell you a little personal story about how I got into banking. It was kicking and screaming. I needed a job. I needed to be able to pay some bills. I was married. I didn't have a family yet, but knew I was going to have one. I needed a steady paycheck. And I was a sales guy. And at the time, banking was starting to hire people with a sales background. I knew nothing about finance. So everything I learned, and some people would say I still know nothing about finance after 30 years in the industry. So after I got into banking, or as I got into it, I learned on the job most of what I needed to learn to be successful in my industry. And so what I would just want to start with is as you enter your college career, your career in the military, your career in private enterprise, wherever it might be, I want to encourage you just to have a really open mind and to stay a lifelong learner about the things that you encounter. Because most of us who get my age tend to think we know everything that's important, we've learned enough, we stop learning, we stop growing as individuals, and I think largely become less effective the closer we get to the end of our careers. And I've got another 10 or 15 years left on me, so hopefully I will continue to learn and grow in those things. How many of you think you know enough now to get, through life? Nobody's going to admit it, but most of us probably think we do. So let's talk about banking just a minute. How many of you have a checking account? All right. So let me now ask this question. What do you think banks do? Somebody give me just a, sir?
They loan money with interest in order to, sorry, ADHD kicked in. I'm Kobe Husky, I'm from MOWW, and banks, they loan money to people to not only benefit the economy, but they also make their own money because they charge interest, and when they charge interest, when that money is paid back, they get more money back than they loan.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. I always made my speech. I'll be done for the day. Banks are intermediaries. We take deposits from people's checking accounts, from certificates of deposit, which is money they put on deposit with us, which we pay interest on, and we take those funds and we turn around and loan them to borrowers. What kind of loans do you think we make? Ma'am? I saw you about to, no, you're with the ponytail, pigtail, whatever, braided hair. Stand up. Name?
My name is Allie Eggers. I'm from Madison County High School.
Okay.
I was going to say, we do loans for like a house.
Right. That's right. We do home loans, make home loans. And there's there's something else about how banking works. There's mortgage banking and commercial banking. Mortgage banking is where most mortgages are made for the purposes of purchasing a house. Any of you have a parent in the banking business by chance? Good. Okay, great. They've had a stressful few years. So what other kinds of loans do you think we might make? Sir? Cars. Make car loans, sir? Student loans, that's right. Yes, sir. That's yours? You want to go for another one? Is that your final answer? Would you like to call a friend? You, sir, back.
Commercial real estate.
Commercial real estate, we'll talk about what that is in just a minute.
Starting business.
Starting businesses, exactly. And you, sir? Medical,
Like if you get into an accident, you can't pay for it.
sure. Personal loan, right. So we make a variety of different types of loans. But whose money are we loaning? Yeah, we're not loaning our own money for the most part. We do have something called capital, which is the accumulated profitability that we have over time, as well as if we have investors pay for and put stock in the bank for the purposes of making a longer term return as a stockholder. So we make these different types of loans. Do you think we get paid back on all of them? No. So if we loaned $1,000, what would you think we would expect to get back if we were a high performance bank? Out of that $1,000, forget about interest. Yes. What's a reason? How much could we afford to lose out of $1,000 and still be profitable?
Just go from one high school, about $800.
Okay, so we would expect to get back 800?
1,200. 1,200 to get back, minimum 800.
Well, let's just say we made a loan for $1,000 and we were going to collect the payments, just forget about interest. How much of that would we want to get back? All right, how much do you think we get back? 900 or 800. How much do you think we would need to get back to be, let's look at it this way. How much could we lose on that $1,000 and still be what would be considered a really high performing bank? How much? We could lose out of that $1,000 $3. It's a very thin margin business. To be a high performance bank, we've got to collect $997 out of that $1,000 to become. If we lose more than that, we have a problem with our profitability, and that's where the regulators come in, and the stockholders get mad, and all kinds of bad things begin to happen. So let's talk a little bit about, what do you think our primary role is as an intermediary between taking deposit money and loaning it out at a profit? What's the single most important thing we need to do, the role we play? Sir?
Figure out what the money's going towards.
That is a part of it. Figure out where the money's going forward. Yes, sir?
Gain profit.
To get a profit, that's important. What role, think about it just a second. So, yes, ma'am. Making sure that the people that we loan it to are going to be able to pay it back. That really gets to the heart of being a risk manager. And the American Dream and the free enterprise system is all about managing risk. And there are a couple of different types of risk that we are involved in. How many of you aspire to own your own business someday? Okay. What kind of business would you like to own? Ruben, do you have an idea?
The business I would like to own is a law firm.
A law firm. Okay, great. Don't sue banks, okay? All right, so I got one law firm in the back. You, sir, with glasses in the back?
Real estate.
Like an agency? Or developing, or
Like
what?
an agency, I'd start out with like a couple houses and manage them and rent them out and then maybe
Okay.
get an agency.
Okay, all right, great. Yes, ma'am.
A veterinarian clinic.
A veterinarian clinic. Okay, great. See me after the meeting. I'd like to loan you some money. Now, all of you, I've heard all these different types of businesses before. What we have to do is we have to assess the capacity for an individual to repay the debt. Now, what do you think? Well, I'll just say this. One of the things we look at is the capacity, the expertise of that company, that person, and their ability to lead. Their ability to lead being, what kind of plan do they have? They can have a great plan, but can they execute upon the plan? And so here's my analogy. I cut grass for all the way through high school and college. That was how I made extra money, and it was fun. And just about anybody can cut grass, except apparently my son. He could never. There was always a line of grass between the paths. I could never get him to overlap the lawnmower. So finally, I just gave up. I love him dearly, but he's not gifted in the grass cutting area. So, and now I've lost track of where I am. So the ability to cut grass is a skill. But cutting grass, when you have multiple people working for you, you have to lead those people, you have to manage them, you have to pay them, you have to deal with regulation about things, and comply with employment law, comply with tax law, comply with workers' compensation law to keep them safe. And so the ability to lead and multitask is critical in our risk assessment role as a bank if we're going to make money, if we're going to loan money for a veterinarian clinic. People go to veterinarian school, they come out, they know how to treat animals, but they may not know all the business parts of it. They may not understand it. In fact, frankly, most of them don't. Physicians come out of medical school, go into practice, they very rarely know a lot about those kinds of things. And so we're risk managers trying to evaluate whether we can loan that person $1,000 and be assured of getting back at least $997. We'd like to get it all back, plus our interest, because the interest is our profitability. Right? Does that make sense? Okay. Any questions? Right. So, when you go to the bank for a loan, one of the questions that's coming up is your ability to lead, your ability to manage. Our role as a risk manager is to look at your financial acumen, what you know, and how much money. Well, let me ask you this question. If you need $10,000 to start a business, do you think the bank would want to loan you all $10,000? No. Why not? Too big of a risk. So what might we like to see happen if we're going to ask, if we're going to make it if somebody needs $10,000 to start a business, what do you think we'd want them to put in it?
Steve, you want to get at least half the amount back so they know you'll be able to pay the other half side.
Yeah, so that's right, and we call that equity, right? What Stephen said was typically we want half. If it's $10,000, it'd be great if you put in 5 and we put in 5. Right? Because as an investor, if you own the business, you are investing in something and you get a long-term return, and you don't want to ask the bank to take 100% of the risk through potential failure. And depending upon what math you use, what percentage of businesses, I'll tell you in a minute, but new businesses in the world today, what do you think the failure rate is? Somebody starts a business today, what percentage of people those businesses fail?
80.
Sir, you with the glasses? That is over 80. He said 85%. So over the course of a couple of years, it's that high. Most small businesses don't succeed. Probably half of them don't make it through the first year, depending upon how you cut the data and what industry it's in. But as a whole, interestingly though, small business drives most of the business growth of employment in the country. And that's something that the bank pays careful attention to, is how many people are employed. And that's where we're going to talk about the Federal Reserve in just a minute. How many of you have ever heard about the Federal Reserve? Right. You, sir, in the back have an opinion on that. so they're going to toy with our lives next month again. So
You mean the money printers?
Pardon?
The money printers?
The money printers, yeah. We'll talk about that too. And I need a sip of water, excuse me. So, what was I talking about?
Federal Reserve.
Pardon?
Federal Reserve.
Back me up when we'll read all the tape.
Percentage of failures.
Failure, small business failure.
Failure. Okay, that's a perfect point of forget where I am. So we are risk managers trying to evaluate failure because we are taking your checking account money and your savings account money and your mom and dad's IRA money, and we are loaning that. It's not really our money. And so we have to be very good at it. And these kind people at the Federal Reserve pay attention to our ability to do that well. Now you guys are, so you're sophomores, I forgot, it's been so long since I was in high school, I can't remember how old I was. 17, 18 years old, 16, that's where y'all are.
15.
So you guys would have been 7 or 8 in 2007 and 8, is that right? Most of you born around 2000, somewhere in there. do you have any recollection, or have you heard your parents talk about what went on in 2007 and 8? Yes, ma'am. Is it Lindsay? All right, this is Lindsay from, in where? Okay, good. Right. Oh, wow. Wow. So she said her father lost his cabinet shop because of the economy crash. So what do you think the American dream is? What do you think when people say the American dream? How would you describe the American dream? Because I think Lisa was supposed to talk about that, but couldn't make it today. She had something come up. And she is an American dream story. So what do you guys think of when you think of the American dream? You got to raise your hand and talk out loud. Use yours. Sir?
Anthony Conklin, Beauty High School. Maybe get everyone like out of bed.
So that would be like the country's dream to get everybody out of debt.
Get themselves out of bed.
Oh, okay. That's a great, yeah, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
I'm still dreaming. You, sir, in the back row. Are you in trouble? Is that why you're on the back row?
No, sir.
Yeah,
You will.
troublemaker.
Go ahead.
Lucas Central Arab High School. I think there should be no taxes.
That's. What's your name, sir?
Lucas Central.
Lucas would like to announce his candidacy for the presidency in 2028. So, go ahead. No taxes. You, sir.
Ari Kirsch and James Clemens. I think the American dream is the ability to whatever you want, no matter where you're at, you can be whatever you want and bring whatever you want.
Okay. Yes, ma'am.
Taylor Fitzsimmons from Buckhorse High School, and I believe that the American dream is having money and being able to survive.
Okay. Having money and being able to survive. I'm going to go to the back corner here. Is it Elijah?
Yes.
Okay.
Elijah Floyd from Columbia High School. And I say the American dream would be house, car, and spouse.
Good looking wife.
And money. Having
House, car,
spouse,
spouse,
and money.
and money. All right. You, sir. We'll go one more here. We'll go two more.
Elijah Bravo. That's my cousin. East Owens High School. For me personally, I think the American dream is just knowing that you're free to do what you want to do with your life, and no one else can tell you what to do with it.
Okay. And the last one.
Larry from Buckhorse High School. I think American dream is kind of our we should still be living a constitution.
Okay. Constitution, kind of returning to how the Constitution worked and how life was when the founding fathers did. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, my name is Scarlett. I'm from Stursford High School.
From where?
Stursford High School in Tennessee.
Okay.
And I believe it's like to be the best country we can be.
Okay. All right, so here, I'm going to pause right now. Now, here's what I want you to do. A couple of you took it down to a very personal level, right? Car, house, family, money in the bank, whatnot. When some of us were growing up, and when our parents were growing up, the American dream was to own a house, to get it paid for, to have a job long enough and work one or two jobs and have a pension. So that when they retired, they got a paycheck until they died. And their families were taken care of. Now the American dream is still that, and it's been added to, and sometimes the means to those things include owning a business of your own, and it includes the more global things about freedom and free enterprise and I guess freedom to have a limited amount of interference in our daily lives. The Federal Reserve has a big role to play in our daily lives that you may not realize. But your definition of the American dream may be different than, will probably be different than your parents. Your father went through the loss of a cabinet shop. Well, his dream may be simply to get back to a regular job long enough to recover from the financial crisis of 2007 and 8. And a lot of what happened in 2007 and 8, what you might not be aware of, is people were paying, they were failing to pay their home mortgages in a dramatic fashion, and they probably should never have been loaned the money to buy it. And what was happening is those mortgages let's say I loan Joseph $100,000 to buy a house, and Bryce $100,000 to buy a house, and your name is, and Emily's $500,000, because Emily's got money. She's good. All right, so that's $500,000, $600,000, $700,000. I take those 3 mortgages and I package them together, and I put a little ribbon around them, and I go and I find, what's your name? Loyal? Okay. And I tell Loyal, hey man, I want to sell you these $700,000 in mortgages because you're going to earn interest off of them. And when you do, you're going to get rich. Now, what has to happen for Loyal to get paid back is all 3 of these guys have to make their payments. And I might sell those mortgages to Loyal for either a premium, I might sell them for $702,000, or I might sell them for $698,000. But if those people don't make those payments, Loyal doesn't get his money back. And that's the mortgage packaging took place. People invested in them, and then people stopped paying their mortgages. And when they stopped paying their mortgages, cabinet shop people quit being able to build houses because home builders were going out of business because nobody could get a mortgage anymore. If your dad was building cabinets for custom homes or for construction companies that were building a lot of houses, so all this runs through the system, right? The banks have loaned money, banks are losing money, Loyal's losing money, people are getting out of their jobs, and here comes the Federal Reserve and the United States government to the rescue. And I don't know how much time I've got left, so somebody just bear with me. And in case the president calls, I have to check my phone. So it's 11:24, and I think I'm getting close to winding down. So the Federal Reserve's role in all this, and the United States government, there's 2 things I want you to know, talk about. The U.S. government sets fiscal policy for the country. How much we tax and how much we spend. That's fiscal policy. The Federal Reserve sets monetary policy. Its role through 12 district governors is to attempt to control inflation. Do you know what inflation is? What is it?
Worthless money.
What is it? You, sir, with the glasses?
It's the devalue of money.
It can be the devaluation of money because of some things. Yes, sir.
Zach Salvador, right now, so inflation is when the government particularly pumps money into the economy in order to stimulate it, that also harms the economy.
Right. So here's a good rule of thumb. It's too much money chasing too few goods. People have too much money, so prices rise dramatically in a very quick period of time. And back when I was a young man, and some of these people in the back of the room will remember a guy named Jimmy Carter, who was president, who was a naval officer, a fine guy, he'd been the governor of Georgia, but he also presided over a country at the time when if you could get a mortgage loan for 18%, you were elated. If you could get one, 18% a year. That means if I'm borrowing $100,000, I pay back $118,000 over the course of a year. Right now, interest rates are around 3%. So that makes a big difference. So the Federal Reserve tries to control inflation so that it doesn't go crazy. It tries to stimulate employment. It tries to, and it regulates banks for their financial performance to make sure we're not doing crazy things like we were doing in 2006 and 7 and 8. Not necessarily the commercial banks, but it tries to control those things to keep. How many of you would rather it be 80 degrees every day or 70 degrees every day than have it be 30 one day and 110 the next? I mean, would you rather it be kind of stable? Yeah. So that's what the government, that's what the Federal Reserve would like. We like the temperature in the economy to stay the same. A little steady growth, not rampant growth, because if it's growing too fast, then things get out of hand. If it's growing too slow, like it did in 2007 and 8, we're all out of work, we're worried about our futures, and we're in deep cabbage, all right? And I saw men and women in that period of time that I'd never seen before. I saw fear in their eyes because for the first time in our lives, for a long, long time, things have not been we're not that good. And that's where the Federal Reserve started. In 1913, it was formed to prevent bank runs. Bank runs were because we don't keep all of your money available for you to take out when people get worried about the economy, they go racing to the bank to want to take their money out. And back then, they could get it. Or, have you ever seen the movie It's a Wonderful Life? There you go. All right, sir. So that strikes you with something. What do you remember about that movie?
There's this one guy who's trying to get his money out of the bank, and he's not.
Stand up and tell everybody your name, sir.
Okay. Do I have to say my name again?
Yes.
Okay. Bobby Hudson, Jones High School.
You're still Colby.
Yes.
All right. Good deal.
So in the movie, there's one man who is. Okay. So bank run starts. Everyone's freaking out. They're rushing into this bank to get their money out, and they don't have enough money in that bank to give them their money because they've loaned it out to other people to build houses. And he takes the $2,000 he has in his honeymoon money, which is a lot of money at the time, and he splits it up so that the people in the bank that are wanting all of their money out can make it until the economy starts to get better.
Exactly. Yeah, that's right.
That's
Perfect
what
answer,
John's
Colby.
saying.
And you remembered your name, that you went to Bob Jones High School. So give Colby a round of applause. I don't mean to pick on you, but I might do it again. I don't know. So the Federal Reserve comes in place to try and prevent these bank runs, because if everybody lines up at the bank and says, I want my money now, it's not in there. And what Jimmy Stewart in that movie goes around and he tells people is, the money's not here, it's in your house. And in that case, it was a savings and loan, and all the money was in houses. But what he was basically saying was, it's in your house, it's in your car, it's in your business, it's in all these different places, and if you all want it right away, we're all in trouble. The Federal Reserve tries to affect that by a discount rate and by the Fed funds rate. The Federal Reserve is essentially the lender of last resort for banks. If a bank needs money to give it to its depositors and can't get anywhere else, it goes there. And do you know about something called FDIC insurance? Have you ever heard of that? Yeah. So theoretically, depending upon how the math works, how your accounts are styled, you've got roughly $250,000 worth of deposits that the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation will guarantee in your bank that you can get to eventually. And they've had to pay off on some of that. So essentially, the Federal Reserve tries, by controlling interest rates, to control how much money is out there chasing the amount of goods. So let's talk about leadership a second. Do you think that's easy? What measures do you think people might look at to try to figure out what interest rates should be? I know that's a tough question, but I'm not asking you. Sir?
Just go from high school, I think we look at their college transcripts and their credit scores.
Yeah, so what I'm talking about is at the industry, and you're right about an approval for a loan, but what I'm trying to figure out is the Federal Reserve itself, and I'll tell you, it looks at employment, it looks at how much manufacturing is going on, what are the trends there, it looks at the world economy, because now most of what you own, particularly the things you're wearing right now, were not made in this country. They were made in the Caribbean Basin, they were made in, probably not Eastern Europe, in Asia, they were made all over the world. And the reason Walmart can sell your clothes so cheaply is because they're made in places that, a lot of that's made in places where it's very low cost. Yes, ma'am?
How do you think America would adjust if we lost all of the ability to import our clothing? How do you think we're going to survive?
We'd be really cold. No, I think that's going to be a challenge. So most of us would like to pay, well, how many of you would you like to pay more for a gallon of gas? Anybody want to pay more? Anybody want to pay more for your Nikes? No? You want to pay more for your video games or your cell phone? Yeah. So what we want is really high quality goods, cheap. And we have let, from a leadership perspective, much of our capacity to manufacture things leave this country. Because in the free enterprise system that we operate, We want low-cost goods, and we have been willing, or at least our leadership has been willing, to let that employment base move to foreign countries. And Donald Trump, you know, he said, whether he does it or not, I'm not passing judgment on him, but he said we're not, you know, we're going to bring all those jobs back to the U.S. from Mexico and other places. Being able to do that is a yeoman's chore, and it could lead to a trade war, which means the price of your clothes are going to go up. We're going to put tariffs on imports. We're going to put tariffs and taxes on that item that might cost $100 to bring across the border. Now, may cost $105. And guess what Walmart's going to do? They're going to raise the price. Right? So all this is connected. And now what I want to do is I want to talk to you about leadership. So, and I will stop and just say, are there any questions about the financial industry and about the role banks play or the Federal Reserve? Anything I can answer about that? Yes, ma'am.
And I have a question about the U.S. debt. Like, we're already going so much debt. Like, how does that affect the economy? Like, how can we never pay for it as soon as possible?
Okay, great question. She wants to know, with the trillions of dollars in debt that the U.S. is in, how do we pay that back, and what are the implications of that if we don't? Right? So the federal, first of all, the last time the United States was not in any debt was when Andrew Jackson was president. And Andrew Jackson has been dead 150 years or something like that. He's real dead. And so we have decided as a nation that we are willing to borrow and mortgage our future. And so here's a personal caution for you. You're going to get out of school one day and somebody's going to send you a credit card application. And you're going to go, I got money, because I got a piece of plastic. And I'm going to go out and buy dinner for everybody. And I'm going to buy shoes for me. And I'm going to buy my mom a new whatever. I'm going to do nice things with my credit card, and eventually I'm going to have to pay it back. The interest rate is very high. So it's what happens at the federal level is the government issues notes. Some are 30-year notes, some are 30-year, some are 10-year, some are different terms. And the people that buy those are everything from foreign government investors to guys like you and me. And we have been given a promise to pay. And I've forgotten the numbers now, but they are staggeringly high about how long it will take to pay that debt back. And it, frankly, to me, is a national security issue. It is a problem with, if our financial system is, and I'm not trying to scare you, but the Army and the military now plays war games today based on cyber currency transactions. They play financial war games to see what happens. If the U.S., which right now has a, is it a AA? Did we go from AAA to AA 7 or 8 years ago? I should know this, I'm the banker. But a AAA, okay, I'm going to make something up here. This is where I make it up. I think we went from a AAA to a AA debt rating. And your debt rating is not as high as AAA. The city of Huntsville has a, and I'm giving you a long answer. The better your debt rating, the lower your cost of borrowing money. And as your ability to repay deteriorates, you can't keep borrowing. And if you can't keep borrowing, you can't keep enforcing the law. You can't keep a military adequately prepared to fight conflicts around the world that is pretty scary sometimes in some places. You can't keep the lights on, so to speak, in the United States federal buildings. There are ability, so it is possible, and countries do fail on their ability. They default. There's a little little island called Greece, and there's a place called Portugal, and there's some other places. And if you can, some of you in the back will remember, and there are municipalities, Orange County, California back in the 80s, and a number of other ones just failed because they didn't have enough tax revenue anymore to pay their debt back. It's a big deal. It's a really big deal. But as a nation, we're kind of willing to be in debt. And as individuals, we're kind of willing to be in debt. Individuals have done a much better job of getting their financial house in order since the financial crisis than the federal government has. So when you go vote, when you're old enough to vote, one of the things, and some of you probably already are old enough to vote, And are you sure? So you're going to vote for, no, I'm not going to ask. So, I don't know, I'm putting anybody on the spot. You can write me in, which I will accept. So if you roll the tape far enough, long enough, it is possible for the U.S. government to default on its debt. And when you vote, you need to decide which person running for office is the most likely to be responsible with your money. It's not their money. The government doesn't create anything. It does a lot of things, but it doesn't make anything. It does a couple things really well. I mean, it builds highways pretty well, sort of, sometimes. It did for a while. And we're really good at, when we're ready to, when we have the will in our intestinal fortitude to, without being too harsh, break things and kill people, we can do that. And there are times when I think we have to break things and kill bad people. And I hope that's not on tape, but my point is it's a very volatile world, and beyond that, I'm for a very limited government. I think it's our job to protect our nation and get out of everybody's way, pretty much after that. So there was a question or a comment back here. Does that answer your question? No? The more debt we have, the worse off we are. And we're pretty bad off right now, okay? Because our economy's not growing fast enough to pay it back. And if interest rates go up, we're in more trouble. Okay? Have I scared you?
Yeah.
Okay.
When it's
What would it take to scare you? I'm sorry. Yes, ma'am. Patricia? Princess, I'm sorry. Huntsville High School. All right.
Making off the question that, your debt and debt is a sour word and so are taxes. You may hear about debt or taxes, everyone gets funny faces. But I was thinking, is there a possible way to if not balance the economy, fluctuate the tax system? Because in some households with, let's say, 5 people living in it, the amount of taxes the parents have to tax will be detrimental to the growth and the ability for that kind of thing to survive. Compared to other families where they're, let's say, better off and can afford to pay more taxes. Well, if that fluctuation happens, if that change happens, will we be able to stop paying off more debt, or will it just leave us as state?
Yeah, so her question is, the impact of taxes on lower income people is harder for them with a disposable income, and what do we do to take, I'm trying to make sure I paraphrase your question right. So, how does the tax rate become fair and recognize that certain people can't pay as much as other people, right? And then, how could we do that to pay off the debt? How could we fix the tax code so we could pay off the debt or pay it down? Am I getting the neighborhood? Okay, we can't, so I'm done. I'm kidding. So we have a progressive tax system in the U.S., which means the more money you make, the higher rate of taxes you pay. There is a point in the income stream where you actually have a tax credit. If you don't make enough money, you get a check back from the government. The difficult part of that is figuring out how much money you should get and at what income level you should get. So it's in place now. It's called the
unearned income tax credit.
Pardon?
Unearned income tax credit.
That's right. And so you can get a check for some dollar amount based on the number of dependents you have and based on your income, right? So the argument's always that people who make a lot of money should pay more, and in fact, they pay more into the system as a whole, and I've forgotten the numbers, but it's pretty staggering. But whether it's fair or not, it's like, what your definition of fair and my definition of fair is why all these cats argue in D.C. all the time. But if we could find a way, and here's my theory, the first thing you got to do to get out of debt is quit spending. You got to quit borrowing. And there's a theoretical debt ceiling in the U.S. government that's capped by Congress how much we can borrow, and every time we get to it, we just raise the limit. It's like getting to the top of your credit card limit, and then they raise it again. Well, we didn't really mean it, you can borrow some more. So that's that, and Mike's standing up. I'm out of time.
Getting close.
All right, so let's do this. I can either answer questions or I can talk about leadership a little bit. What do y'all want to do? Leadership, okay. All right, it's a couple things. It's hard. Leadership's hard. It requires the willingness to be a lightning rod and to hear difficult things. It requires the ability to keep learning. It requires the ability to admit to your faults, to engage the groups of people that you want to engage, and sometimes you didn't get it done. Doesn't mean you're a failure, it just means you got to learn something from it and move forward. It requires trust. So Carson and I are going to run a tough motor together. We've got to get over a 20-foot barricade. I got to get him up there, and he's got to help me get over the top. And I got to be afraid that he's going to let me go. I might be afraid he's going to let me go, but I got to know he is not going to let me go. And that's what leadership's about. He's not going to let me go. And it's at a very personal level. It's not a job. It's not something that you're not necessarily the president of the company or the president of the student service organization, whatever. It's about building trust with the people around you and playing the role, not having the job that you play within a group of people. And it can be really fun when everybody comes to it and they don't want to be in charge. I will say this, there was a president by the name of Ronald Reagan, who I think was a really good president. I read a lot of his life. He had a saying on his desk, and it said this: there's no limit to what a man or a woman can accomplish as long as he doesn't care who gets the credit. That's what leadership is. And it's messy, it's muddy, it's fun, but it requires trust, and it requires some other things like looking forward, and it also requires looking in the mirror and looking at your circumstances with brutal honesty and saying, what can I do better? What do I need from someone else? And having the kind of, here's the last word I'll use, relationship capital with people to be able to say hard things and have them say hard things to you to be successful. And your parents try to lead you, and sometimes you don't like what they say, right? You got to be in which you're not in your head, you never bothers you what they say. Just kidding. My children have certainly looked at me and said, you've lost your mind. And they still say it. And they're 31 and 28. And sometimes I have. But we have a relationship that supersedes their frustration with me. And so when you're being led by someone else, it's aggravating. Sometimes you just got to say, maybe I need to listen to this person. Maybe they're just trying to keep me from getting in a pothole. Or maybe they're trying not to drop me to a 20-foot wall so that I don't splatter my head all over the only thing's wounded is my pride because I need a little help. So I'm out of time. If you have another question or anything, I'll just close with that. Otherwise, I'll get out of here and let y'all do something fun. Yes, sir. And just wave me down, Mike, from out of here. Last question. Okay. All right. You get the last question, Ruth.
You talked about earlier, the economy needs to grow in order for us to get that big. How can we truly make
Can you repeat the question, please?
How can we truly make the economy grow so that we can get out of debt? Get the government out of the way. That's not all right, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Really quickly, we do have, there's 5 of us. We didn't know you guys were breaking into 6 teams. So the 6th team, we're gonna have to break you guys into the other teams, just because we're extremely short on staff, and I'm leaving for vacation in the morning, so I can't take a team. I'm going to Disney World. Yeah. So at the end, I'm gonna introduce the first 5 teams. That last team, we're gonna then break you into the other teams. So sorry, we gotta break you up from your buddies, but you get to make new friends. So that's the positive there. So real quick, my name's Juicy Fruit, in case you forgot from last night. Hot Dog, the other guy in blue, you might recognize him from last year. Some of you might. So we'll be doing the support for you guys. Our director, Quineth Moon, call sign Boogie, he'll also be helping out tomorrow morning. But the first team, so team one, who's team one? All right, you guys here. You guys are going to have my favorite Robert Skihan call sign synopsis. This guy right here has wrestled alligators. I mean, look at him. Doesn't he look like a trained alligator wrestler? No, he's not. He's actually a very, very smart man. Degree in aerospace engineering. Ask him anything. He knows everything. But you guys will be with the one, the only synopsis. Where is my team two? Team two, light blue. You guys are going to go with this culinary chef. We call him Soup Can. This is Kevin Ton. Where's my team three? Team three, orange. This guy he used to work out in the West. He used to dress up as a cowboy. We call him Rawhide. All right, where is team four? Team four here is in yellow. So this next guy we've got, I honestly don't know anything about him because I met him like 3 weeks ago. But I can tell you, he's got a beautiful smile. We call him Cahoots. And you have to say it just like that. You guys, Cahoots. So the last guy, where's team five? All right, team five, and then team six, you guys will get to mingle with everyone else. So this last guy here is a huge Auburn War Eagle fan. Like no other. He's got the biggest eagle tattoo on his back. I mean, he screams Auburn. He's got an orange truck like no other. He has also been a professional wrestler. You guys may have recognized him from WrestleMania 1989. He won the championship. A back injury forced him to retire, and now he's working with us. We call him Speedo. So what we're going to do here in a minute, we're going to go and eat lunch. I know Synopsis is hungry. He's giving me this eye. He wants some substance. That's a big word. I don't know what it means. So when we go to lunch, the crew trainers, our instructors here, they're going to give you a quick brief about how we do our meals. So they're going to lead you in. You're going to grab your food. You're going to go to your tray. You're going to go to your table. You're going to stand in parade, rest. They're going to give you a command to take a seat. You got to give them a yes, sir. If it sounds really weak, like 9-year-olds, they'll tell you to do it again until it sounds good. They've got their own little sets of rules about what's going on, so they're going to give you a little intro about themselves, what their expectations are. So when you're with your team leaders, just make sure that you are following their lead. I have paid them lots and lots of money, not really, to be able to do this job successfully, not really. So hope you have fun with them. So if you guys want to hang out for a minute, we will get these last group 6, broken into the other teams, and then we'll go grab some food. Any questions? And no, I don't know what's for lunch. I just know it's food. What is it? It's Belgium. I can't guarantee you're gonna have waffles. Yeah, Belgium, something like that. So no questions? Oh, he's question. Oh no, you're stretching. Okay. I think there is meat there. Yes. So we should be good. So give us a second. We'll get them broken down. All right, we have made a change. Team 4, you guys are actually going to be broken down, because you guys have this. So sorry, but you guys can still be Facebook friends and whatever social other stuff there's out there.
Represent.
Please.